Hey there, Sagittarius. Welcome to my channel, Holy Ache. So happy to have you here. So happy you clicked on this video. As you can tell by the title, I'm going to be giving you your June 2020 tarot scopes. So just getting into the messages, guidance, energy for the month of June for you, Sagittarius. And if you give me a brief moment, I'm going to drop in and check in with my guides, get clear on the messages that I am available to, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, Sagittarius, let's see what is the main focus for the month of June. Okay, so Sagittarius, what I'm seeing the focus is on recognizing that you have all that you need in the present moment, that you are all that you need to be, that you don't need to gain any additional skills, you don't need to lose any amount of weight, you don't need to have any more money to be of worth and to be of value. And not to say that you know, losing weight or having money or gaining more skills isn't something worth pursuing, but more so just understanding that you don't need to achieve anything outside of yourself in order to be happy, in order to be happy in the present moment. It's really about calling to your attention, like you see this person, like they have all of these swords here, but they keep looking back at these other two and thinking that they should go back and get those more in order to be satisfied. So it's really, and I would also say it's a month to recognize, like, to pay more attention to moderation in a sense, to pay attention to, like, what does it mean for you to have enough? What does enough look like for you? What does enough feel like for you? And that could be like enough in terms of how you view yourself, but also enough in terms of like what you expect in your internal environment. Like what is enough money? What is enough? How many friends are enough? How many followers or whatever are enough? How big of a community do you need to have? I keep thinking about this Swedish term. I believe it's pronounced lagom. I like kind of flipped through a book about it, but it was more so, it was talking about like the Swedish have I don't know if I want to call it a custom, but it's more of like a way of being, of just like recognizing like what is good balance between like having just enough but not having too much. And I hope I'm making sense with that. But let's get into some of the other cards here. Okay, so what's kind of bringing you to this energy is the Four of Wands. So if anything, I feel like it's with a lot of the messages that I've been getting for the signs is that like there's a lot of self-guided healing happening, a lot of self-guided realizations. Like there's not really a need for some external stimulant to come in and show you like, hey, realize that you're enough. It's like you've kind of been guided towards that anyway. Hey there, so I'm editing this video and I'm noticing where I'm kind of failing to properly explain the messages that I'm getting from these two cards. So I'll start with the Seven of Swords. So with the Seven of Swords, Sagittarius, I'm seeing that in the month of June, you're coming to an understanding of the fact that you don't need to have any type of external circumstance to validate your existence, so to speak. And the examples that I'm using, I don't know that they're working all that well, but just coming to the understanding that like you don't need to look a certain way. You don't need to have a certain amount of followers on Instagram. You don't need to have a certain kind of job in order for you to be worthy as a human being, in order for you to have fun in your life. And that's kind of where I'm seeing with the Four of Wands for like moving up to your recent past is like, or where your past has guided you into the present moment being the month of June, is that like you've been learning how to have fun in a sense, or how to better embody your spirit, how to better like release insecurities, release ideas of like low self-worth, and just have enjoyment in the present moment, have enjoyment, finding enjoyment with where you're at now, being able to celebrate how far you might have come, even if you still feel like you have so much more to go. And with that, kind of playing around in your past of like, how do I find enjoyment in my body and my present moment and my present circumstances, with like what I have, like how can I find pleasure in that moment? So in the month of June with the Seven of Swords, it's kind of like realizing almost how, I wouldn't say like how futile it is to search for more, because like, I mean, we should always set goals for ourselves and hope to expand and grow as human beings, at least from my perspective. And I'm sure for a lot of you, Sagittarius, like learning and expanding your mind and expanding your horizons is like a huge part of like your lived experience and what you want for your life. But what I'm getting at is just like realizing that maybe the things that you maybe were placing your attention on were detracting from what you already have, and like devaluing what you already have because you felt like you had to go out and achieve these extra swords. But it's like taking a moment to take stock of where you're at in your life in the month of June, in the present moment, and just like looking around and saying, oh, I can be grateful for who I am, for my soul, for my heart, for my spirit. And like taking the time to fully embody that and accept that, and without feeling like you have to be or do or achieve anything more in order to fully embody yourself. And this is me kind of giving my own personal experiences as an example of just like feeling like I had to be skinny in order to have fun, or to, you know, date somebody, or to or to just enjoy my life. Like I couldn't enjoy my life until I had a flat stomach and my skin was clear and I was free of debt and all of these things. And it's like, you don't have to wait for some external validation, some external stimulus in order for you to be present and to live and play and to accept pleasure in your life. You're worthy of pleasure in this present moment. And it's like the focus for you is really on understanding that you don't have to, that if you want more for yourself, that's wonderful, but you don't have to, but you don't need to have those things in order to be worthy, in order to be happy. You can be happy in the present moment, with or without some external situation. And what's being brought into your conscious awareness is the Three of Swords. So to me, it's like learning how to manage negative self-talk and challenging emotions. Learning that, like, I mean, these things are going to come up regardless of how much money you have, how much mass appeal your appearance gets. That no matter what you achieve in life externally, like there's always going to be some type of like negative self-talk or unpleasant emotion. Like those things don't just go away. And you can look at that with, you know, these celebrities that seem to have it all and commit suicide, or talk about like how strongly they feel their anxiety or depression or what have you. Like being beautiful and having money and being able to, you know, do and having financial freedom isn't necessarily the key to happiness. I don't think I'm saying anything revolutionary here. Like these are things that we hear a lot, that's starting to be talked about a lot more in starting to be talked about a lot more in the media and in society. But what I've recognized, at least on my journey, is that you can hear something 10,000 times and it makes logical sense. Like, yes, of course, I know that external happiness isn't going to like be the end all be all, because essentially no matter where you go, there you are. You take yourself with you into whatever new, fancier, shinier lived experience that you have. So it's easy to hear that and think, yes, that makes logical sense, but it takes time, and honestly sometimes just like random occurrences for it to like hit differently, and it to like, you feel it here instead of like recognizing it mentally. You feel it in your heart, and it starts to make sense to you, and it starts to like and it starts to, how can I put this, like unravel in your lived experience, if that makes sense. And I feel like in the month of June, like really being, there might be experiences that you have that really call to your attention, that like, even if like, you know, you get that dream job, that dream relationship, your dream body, you know, etc., etc., there's still going to be moments of your life where you're going to feel depressed or anxious or even not good enough. To me, it just kind of solidifies that like, these thoughts that come up have nothing to do, it's kind of like a part of being a human. It's a part of like having a brain. Like our brains are just going to give us like all of these like whirlwind thoughts where we just kind of feel that maybe that are challenging and make us feel, just make us feel and put us in our feelings, if that makes sense. So it's a matter of like you learning to become comfortable with that and understanding that like having these extra swords here is not going to eradicate the fact that like being a human being is challenging and it's painful. So it's more so like coming to a place where you understand like, how can I better manage this so that I feel more comfortable in who I am today, rather than placing so much pressure on myself to have these other two swords. Because at the end of the day, you've got like a handful of swords right here, and that's more than enough. And the subconscious energy that's guiding this, which is where I feel like it's not necessarily some external stimulus that's going to be bringing this to your attention, but it's like you've kind of been working on yourself anyway. You've been learning how to embody your unique magnetism and radiance, your power, your magic. And it's something that's kind of, I would imagine, has kind of been like blossoming within you almost of its own accord. Not to say that you haven't been doing the making the effort to become this person that like is fully empowered in their own being, but it's like something that's just kind of been like blossoming within you, and with that, it's really bringing to attention like that you have enough, you are enough, you don't need to be anything more than you are in order to be radiant. And it's like understanding and fully embodying this radiance that's going to bring you even more abundance and satisfaction and happiness, because you're manifesting from a place of self-worth rather than from a place of like, oh, well, I won't be good enough until X, Y, and Z happens. And what you're moving towards, like like understand, and I guess that's what I'm kind of talking about, understanding that you are enough where you're at, and that you are comfortable with who you are in the present moment, is going to allow for more abundance to come to you, for greater opportunities and more happiness to come to you. And it might not look like what you would have thought that it would have looked like, or it might not look like what you would have wanted it to look like before you started this journey of reclaiming your own magic and power. But it's going to be fully in alignment with who you are on a soul level, and what you want on a soul level, rather than an ego level. Because like with this, it's like you're really pursuing like soul joy rather than just like ego joy that comes with having a life where other people can look at it and say, oh look, her life looks so wonderful, blah 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 blah, her life looks so great, whatever. But it's like, it doesn't matter, because no matter how much your life looks great on the outside, every human being is going to experience this, and probably experiences some level of like heartache and uncomfortable emotions on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, so let's get into these additional messages. It's okay to feel feelings. What was I talking about with this here? And understanding that it's okay to have uncomfortable emotions, that they're going to come up, and that no external validation is going to prevent these things from coming up. So you might as well just feel them and get used to feeling them. And because when you're not running from those emotions, that's when you learn how to better manage them. And that's when you learn how to become, and in learning how to manage your emotions, you become a kinder, more peaceful person. Make space for it and reflect. So let me see. And it might be like taking the time and making the space on a day-to-day basis to like check in with how you feel. Sometimes a lot of times our unchecked emotions are controlling our day, and preventing us from like making the necessary steps to like move forward in life. Because when we don't look at them and we don't take the time to reflect and see why we might feel a certain way, and like how we can nurture ourselves in those moments, it's like that's when we become kind of unconscious in our habits, and like kind of reach for old thought processes or habits that don't really serve us. Yeah, and then listen, what we have for more nourishing messages is bear card. So it's like kind of coming out of hibernation. So this period of like you allowing yourself to feel joy with who you are and where you are in the present moment, determining that you are worthy of pleasure and joy. It's like kind of coming out of a hibernation period. And this could be like a hibernation period of like a decade, where like you didn't allow yourself to be who you were because you didn't feel like you were good enough. And that it could have been like from external stimuluses or whatever. Like for instance, it could have been like the past decade of you like not feeling like you were worthy because say you hadn't been in a relationship before, and feeling like you couldn't be the vibrant, expressive self that you are without this relationship. So you never allowed yourself to be yourself as you are. But now it's like you're starting to realize, like I said, that there's no sense in waiting for this external thing because life is because life is life, and I don't even know what else I want to say about that, but there's no use in waiting for this external moment for you to be satisfied with yourself. So now it's like coming out of a period of hibernation where you're feeling more capable, not even capable, but just more willing to show who you truly are, of maybe not giving a shit if what your external circumstances look like. That, you know, everybody is on their own journey, and you're certainly on your own journey. And however that's had to look in the past is how it's had to look. You've learned really important lessons through that journey. So there's no need for you to be ashamed of who you are, or feeling like you need to be anything more than what you are. And that it's time for you to like come out of your cave, so to speak. Show more of who you are, express yourself from a more authentic place. And then we have get creative. And I see this more so as like creativity from a standpoint of like creating the life that you want for yourself. And it might require like to find happiness and peace in the present moment might require you to be a bit creative, might require you to think outside of the box of like what happiness looks like, what pleasure feels like for you. And because what I think a lot of like, even coming back to this card here, because the Four of Wands can really signify celebration, but we have like, usually when we think of celebration, we think of like being around a bunch of people and being at parties and like going on a shopping spree, or like taking yourself out to buy something nice to eat, whatever. But it's like there are more creative ways to celebrate, and like being around a bunch of people and throwing a party doesn't feel good for everybody. Spending a bunch of money, especially if it's money that you don't have, doesn't feel good. So at least not in the long run. You might have like that instant rush of satisfaction, but in the long run, when your bank account is in the negative, that don't feel good. So it's like more so getting creative about like, what does celebration actually look like to me? How can I celebrate in the present moment that is like unique to me and like satisfies me, rather than me wanting to celebrate in a way that looks like what the rest of the world says it's meant to look like. And with here, the last card is Nourish, which I kind of get the sense that you've really been called to understand how to nourish yourself better. And I think, sorry, excuse me. And I think that comes back too with this Four of Wands card. It's just like in learning what celebration and play actually looks like for you. And that's kind of what I'm getting with this Nourish card, especially with this pink color. Pink to me really signifies like pleasure and play and enjoyment. And it's like really finding what that looks like for you in a way that's actually nourishing, rather than like what you've been taught that's supposed to look like. And I think I said this in another video, maybe it was for Pisces, where it's like, even within self-care, people are starting to talk about this more, but like self-care is more than just bath bombs and buying yourself cupcakes. It's more than just like the capitalistic consumer culture vibe of self-care. It's like self-care is like taking care of yourself in the present moment, and sometimes that means like getting your work done. Sometimes that means like having a difficult conversation with someone that you're in a relationship with. You know, it doesn't always look like just distracting yourself with Doritos and bubble baths, you know? Although those things are fun, and sometimes that is what you need, but it's like, you know, taking the time to look deeper within yourself and see if that's actually what's going to nourish you. And with that, that is your reading, Sagittarius. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to start a conversation, please do so in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I hope to see you in the next one. Ciao for now.